broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome to The Gailey Show, the only daily LGBTQ radio news and talk show in the United States. I am your host, John Parker. We are also streaming on our YouTube channel right now. If you like what we're doing, subscribe, click that like button, and leave us a comment. It is Friday, so we take every Friday as an opportunity to unplug from the headlines and celebrate LGBTQ culture and entertainment. Why? Because queer artists and filmmakers and musicians and authors are some of the most censored people in America. And so we always want to take time to uplift their work, celebrate it, and share it with you, dear listeners and viewers. So what is on the show today? Paul Collette's new novel, George Falls Through Time, has been called breathtaking and brilliant by Gerard Conley, rather. He'll join us in the second half hour to discuss. But up first, Carlisle Evans Peck is back with a new album, The Lines in My Hands. They have an upcoming release show on December 4th at the Cedar Cultural Center in Minneapolis. Carlisle is based in the Twin Cities, has been since 2015. They have released 4 self-produced records, performed their work nationally, and composed for choirs, bands, and theater ensembles across the region. For their musical intuition, innovation, and inspiration, collaborators have granted them the nickname The Magician. To that end, in 2024, the Minnesota State Arts Board awarded them a Creative Individuals Grant. Hello, Carlisle. Welcome back to the show.
Hello, John. It's so great to be back. Thanks for having me.
The last time we talked was in 2024, a completely different world. You were on Iconoclasm tour, your Ritual Cabaret. Now you have a new album. We are going to play a track from it, folks, later in the show. But first, I want to hear more about the album.
Yeah. So this album was sort of a creative new direction for my music, in that I composed most of the songs on guitar, which was not an instrument that I had really written that much for before this time. And so it really all came out of the pandemic. Early days of the pandemic, I for whatever reason was not feeling like drawn to the piano at all, and was playing a lot of guitar. And suddenly all of these completely new songs started pouring out of me. And whereas I think previously a lot of my work had been, to risk an oversimplification, sappy queer love songs. These songs started to be very different.
I love sappy queer love songs. So.
I do too. But I, for whatever reason, like a different switch flipped, and these songs that were really sort of grappling with something else, something that, like, I think I can only describe as the duality of life and death, started spinning themselves out. And so all of these songs were written in the first few years after 2020, so between 2020 and 2022. And they feel really connected to the places that I was living and staying in those times. So that feels really integral to the songwriting and the stories that came out. And they're in some ways fairy ballads. I think that there's sort of like a fairy rock, a fairy folk bent to them that I really quite enjoy, and wasn't fully what.
Would it be a Carlisle Evans Peck album if it wasn't?
Yeah. I mean, fair. That's fair. Yeah. So I think that that's a good place to start with the album. These are some of, I think, my favorite songs that I've written, and they're songs that I feel like are going to accompany me for a long time.
Yeah. Tell us about the themes that you're exploring in the songs, either through the lyrics or the song titles or the music itself.
Yeah. it is really all about life on this earth that is accompanied with death all the time. And sort of there's I think that everyone has their own journey with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's sort of like an inevitable part of being a human that has lived some time on this earth, is like you have to grapple with the ever-present fact that like there is a non-existence as well, or that there is something, there's you experiencing life as you know it, but then there's something else and we just don't know what that is. And there's a lot of different feelings to have about that. There's grief, and there's terror, and there's but then even more, I think that there's like connectedness and peace and calm and understanding and comfort with the unknown or whatever that also can come out of that. And I think that this was, in some ways, it feels like this album, this collection of songs, was sort of my turn to start to grapple with that. And yeah, I think that I have a really strong feeling that understanding that death is a part of life, and that life is a part of death, and that there's these two sides of the same cosmic coin, and sort of coming to a peace with that throughout your life in advance of when you actually meet the moment of crossing the threshold, I think is so significant. And I'm definitely not there yet, but I was like, this feels like sort of the beginning of the process. Like I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna, when I started writing these songs, I was like, I'm not gonna sort of be afraid of what I'm thinking about here. Mm-hmm. I want to actually lean into it and see what that means. And I think that there's for me, this is really intimately connected with the questions that different religious and spirituality traditions ask. It's like very connected to the questions that the questions that sort of get addressed when people talk about spirit and magic and the beyond. And there's all they're of a piece, and so it feels very connected with sort of a relationship with existence that's beyond our existence, and finding that all around us and also within us. Like I think that there's a lot of that in the album, encountering the beyond outside of myself and also within myself. Yeah.
We are talking with Carlisle Evans Peck about their new album, The Lines in My Hands, which is coming out on December 5th. We are going to play a track from it later in the show in our next segment. Carlisle, you're going to have an album release party on December 4th at the Cedar Cultural Center with special guests Proper T and McCain Lackey. Tell our listeners about it.
Yeah. So this album release celebration, I'm really excited to be back at the Cedar for this one. The Cedar, I think is the best music venue in the Twin Cities. Maybe I shouldn't say that too loudly. I love the Cedar though. It's like one of my favorites. And just all around, like and I'm really happy to be back there for this album release. It feels really special. And we will play it'll be most of the full instrumentation of the album. So it'll be a full band with 7 players up on the stage and we're going to play the whole record live for everybody. And there'll be opening sets by 2 of my favorite musicians in the Twin Cities, Proper T and McCain Lackey. And I reached out to both of them because I love their music, but I also felt like there was sort of some similar through lines and themes in their work that connected to the through lines and themes in my own work. And I was like, this actually feels like it would be like that. They're stylistically very different artists and also different artists from me, but it felt like some of the things that they are addressing in their work and also like their musical styles like also can be found in my work. And so I was like, this I think will be a really beautiful bill and a beautiful evening of music. So I'm really honored that they're going to be warming the space out.
We're going to have links. We do have links in our show notes and on our websites for you to get tickets to the event on December 4th. If you're watching on YouTube, just look at the description right now. You can get right over there to get your tickets. Carlisle, we have a couple minutes before the break, and when we first met and I got to know you last year ahead of your Iconoclasm tour, I thought it was interesting that you were understanding yourself and presenting as a bard, like a 21st century bard. And I don't hear a lot of folks consider themselves like that's a very specific, musician at a very specific point in time. And how does that play, if at all, in your new album, The Lines in My Hands?
Yeah, I love that question. It feels still very much accurate. And if anything, I think that, I said that I feel like this album has like a little bit of an air of like fairy folk or fairy rock or something like that to it. And so, I mean, stylistically, I think that it carries that connection, but also I think that the way that I connect with the title of Bard is not just in the style of music. I really connect with it in sort of like the cultural role that a song maker or a song carrier has. And that is in sort of like telling like very personal but very human stories and sharing those stories. And so these are
I have to interrupt you real quick. We're going to hit that commercial break right now. Folks, we have a playlist of all of our author interviews. We're going to create one of all of our musician interviews and our film interviews as well. Playlist for you to watch all sorts of things, to find something to read, watch, or listen to over the weekend. Head to our YouTube channel. If you're already there, you can check them out. We're going to take a break. More after these messages. Welcome back to The Gailey Show. I am John Parker. We are coming up on the bottom of the hour. Carlisle Evans Peck is a modern queer bard for our time. They have a new album, The Lines in My Hands, which is coming out on December 5th. They are my guest. Carlisle, we were talking before the break about what it means to be a bard and a queer bard and what that means to you. So you want to pick it up there for us and our listeners?
Yeah. I think that it's there are definitely stylistic associations that people have with that term, like sort of like, I mean, its origins in sort of like northwestern Europe in like ancient times there, and then like sort of it's like fantastification in like the world of sci-fi and fantasy is like one stylistic way of looking at it. But I really view the significance as being one of just a role in the world, and it's carrying stories through song, telling stories that are both personal but also very like deeply fundamentally human. Like I think that the world and our lives get sung into existence. I just sort of put it in a very mystical way, but I think that is actually true, that like there's a way that these enduringly human themes and stories get told in different versions over and over and over and over again. And I think that that's just part of the way of like human lives being sung and propelled into being. And so it's like we got to keep singing the songs so that our lives keep meaning something, that and so so I think that, that whatever like, I think if I put out like an EDM album, that's like, I still will want it to be like I still would want it to like fulfill that like role, and I'd still probably be thinking of it in similar ways that I'm a bard, but I'm making EDM music this time, whatever.
I've got just about 90 seconds left, and this is a huge question, but something I really appreciated about when we talked last time and about your Iconoclasm tour is the invitation to queer ancestors.
Yeah.
And to the connection to queer ancestors. And I guess briefly, like in 30 seconds, does that come up at all in your new album, The Lines in My Hands?
I think that I am that ancestor in The Lines in My Hands.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's not that there's not the same, like, I'm trying to, channel a story from beyond, but I'm more explicitly looking at, like, I'm turning that dial is turning for me,
I love
what
that.
am I going to say?
I love that. Unfortunately, we have to stop it there because I want to play a track from your album. So the album is The Lines in My Hands. It comes out on December 5th. You can get tickets to the December 4th album release party at thecedar.org. It will feature Proper T and McCain Lakely. You can connect with Carlisle at carlisleevanspeck.com. Links to all of this in our show notes and on our website. Just look up today's date and you'll find all of this, folks. And if you're on YouTube, it's just right there in the description. We're going to play that track now. The track title is Lover, I'm an Anthem. We're going to play this and then we'll head out into the break. And when we come back, we're going to have an amazing book to talk about. George Falls Through Time. Here is Lover, I'm an Anthem.
Careful what you give to me. I'm a room on fire. Bolt the door and lose the key. Honey, I'm dark matter. Will be the end. It will make us whole again. Careful what you say to me. I will suffer no liar. Listless, lonely, love is cheap. See to your only bad. There the flesh will ripen fast beneath the balsam. Bound no more to sickly death. Lover, I'm an
to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk where facts matter. Welcome back to The Gailey Show. I'm your host, John Parker. We are 33 minutes after the hour. Also streaming on our YouTube channel right now. If you like what we're doing, subscribe, click that like button, and leave us a comment. He is a writer and animator who grew up in Oregon and now lives in London, where his first novel, The Disassembly of Doreen Duran, was published in 2021. He is also a knitter who runs the popular YouTube channel RJ Knits, which features over 90 videos of tutorials, audience Q&A, and my favorite, the question, will it knit? Where our guest takes various threads of candy and I-cords and asks, will it knit? And you find out why, if or why. His new novel, George Falls Through Time, is available for pre-order now. It comes out on January 20th. Ryan Collette, welcome to The Gailey Show.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. And thank you for finding the Will It Knit videos. It's been a minute since I tried to knit iPhone chargers, so I'm gonna pick that back up.
I'm a baby tuber, so we are just starting to take the whole platform seriously and like do things with it and try to be fun with it. So when you go there and you're like, oh yeah, we're in our infancy stage, so we're just getting started. But I love watching people and see how they do their channels, and so I've spent some time. Because I find knitting fascinating, even though I haven't gotten into the how of it. One of my partners knits, actually. Anyway, why are we talking? Because you have a great YouTube channel. But what I want to talk about is George Falls Through Time. Okay, so to kick it off, George loses his job. His boyfriend breaks up with him. He takes up a gig as a dog walker to make ends meet. There's some puppy drama. And then he falls through time, as one does. Tell us about your new novel and what readers can expect when they turn to page one.
Yeah, so I mean, page one, you can expect quite a rant from George. He's in kind of a tough place in life. He's kind of up against it. And he's so stressed out that he accidentally time travels, and he ends up in the year 1300 in London. So immediately he's kind of hit with the brutal realities of this medieval world. He doesn't understand the people. He doesn't know how to communicate with anybody. They throw him in a dungeon because they don't know what he's doing. But oddly, he sort of assimilates and starts to kind of enjoy this new life as he gets a feel for how the world works. He even falls in love. He gets a boyfriend. And a lot of the book is just kind of following how he gets along in this new world. And it's sort of him living out this, it is a bit of an escapist fantasy, I think, for somebody like me who loves kind of medieval history and is always kind of thinking like, oh, what if we just kind of went back to the woods and lived out this kind of back to basics life. But he finds himself ending up having all the same kind of feelings and anxieties and hang-ups that he used to have in present day. And especially when it comes to this new relationship that he has, it's not just this kind of medieval romance that he has. It is a lot like all the other failed relationships that he's had in modern day life. So the book is this kind of, it's this fun medieval romp. It's a little absurd at times. There's a dragon that is involved at one point. Yes, and some different characters throughout history. But at its heart, it's George kind of confronting his shame and loneliness and his inability to connect, which I think are, he realizes these are issues that are going to affect you no matter what century you're living in.
Okay, we are living in a very particular and peculiar period of history and modern times where queer people can, again, depending on where you are and what government you happen to be living under, gonna live our lives fairly openly, just trying to get through our day. Your novel is a confessional novel that does go back in time, but talk to me about the modern life that you wanted to establish and kind of create that baseline before sending George back to 1300.
Yeah, so I put off writing this book for a long time. I told myself I was not going to do
Really?
a time travel novel. No, I was like, this is not really my lane. I'm not going to be able to figure it out. So I put it off for years. Once I had the initial inspiration, I was a very good procrastinator, and I just put it off for several years. When I finally got around to deciding to like bite the bullet and go for it, I knew that the only way I'd be able to pull it off and write the kind of novel that I wanted to, which was just kind of really immersing myself in this medieval world, was if I was really in the head of this person and just this very close first person perspective. And obviously I did research and did my good homework and everything. But really, I knew that the most relatable character would be somebody who is just a normal person reckoning with this new medieval world and kind of hitting all the stumbling blocks that come with it. So George is very much, he's kind of got an extreme version of my own modern anxieties and hangups and preoccupations, which is, a lot of that is with gay issues, being gay in the modern world. And if you transplant that into a medieval world, what does that look like? And so a lot of the book is just me figuring out, well, how would a person like me fit in a world that, traditionally we think of as kind of the Dark Ages and this very ignorant time. What would that actually look like? How would I actually get along? And what I found was that I'd probably do pretty well. I think it would be okay. There would be.
I want to ask about that. Like, why 1300 of all the times for George to fall into? Why, for the love of Cher, was it 1300?
At first, it was really practicalities. I was thinking, okay, well, how far back could I go and actually survive and be able to communicate with people? And that got me on this whole linguistic kick. And so I thought, okay, 1300 is kind of when English hadn't quite modernized, but it wasn't fully Old English, so I think you could probably survive. And so it was really just practicalities of survival, which I also got really lucky with, because 1300, which I chose 1300 because a nice round number, like just it looks nice too. And I just got really lucky with it. It's such an interesting time period with Edward I is king of England, and he's kind of your prototypical Marvel superhero kind of king, and his son is the exact opposite. He's gay, he's kind of reluctant and not this battle hardy warrior. And I just read a lot about that history and thought, okay, well, this works perfectly with what I'm trying to do with George and tell this kind of very personal gay man's story. Linking it with these characters in history without it being too Magic School Bussy was going to be it made for a great writing experience for me. I really had a good time, and so a lot of the dates that I chose initially, it was just kind of dumb luck that I ended up where I ended up.
We are talking with Ryan Collette, whose new novel, George Falls Through Time, is available for pre-order now. Comes out January 20th of 2026. I'm curious, George could have fallen back into 1300 and they could have seen the cell phone and the clothes and been like, ooh, a wizard. We're going to make him king of this, or, a royal vizier, or whatever the right term is. Talk to me about like the mindset of the folks that are like, ooh, this person should be in jail for a little bit.
Yeah, so they get freaked out by his clothes, by his polyester. He falls in time and ends up, he's wearing a jogging outfit, so he's got running shoes, he's got his phone, his wallet, and keys. So it's just your normal stuff. And that freaks them out. He can't speak the language. They think he's this kind of foreign invader. So they do, probably he's got a couple hours of enjoying the peace, calm nature, and then they catch him and throw him in a jail because they don't know what to do with him. But the people, they are kind of this alien people that I do treat them as kind of these very other kind of scary people at first, but which I think is how we look at history too. But I knew that what I really wanted to get at was that these are actually the same people that we are, and they're probably having the same reactions and feelings and emotions that we have today in modern times. So I really wanted George to confront that. And he does over the course of the novel. He's constantly got kind of this, I mean, most of us, if we ended up time traveling, we would go back in time and kind of think, we'd have this kind of superiority complex just by nature of being from the future. So we would think, oh, well, I know what happens. I know what, you know, I know what electricity is. I know what these people are going to end up happening. I can know that a plague is going to come and all these, like, you just are I'm automatically going to think that you're better than the people that you're surrounding with. So the book, George is constantly hitting against these preconceived notions that he has about the Dark Ages, and how the people interact with him. And slowly, as he connects with them and learns how to communicate and live in this life, he realizes, oh, wait, these people are actually a lot more, they're not only just exactly like me, but they have a much more kind of lived, raw experience. And that's what I was trying to get at with this book.
There is I want to go further on that. There's this like juxtaposition you have between modern life and 1300s, and discovering that is, as you were going along, were there themes, questions that like you were like, oh, this kind of illuminates just today, 2025, and how we could be navigating this particular moment that we find ourselves in?
Yeah, there were a lot of parallels. I don't know if it was just because I was doing so much research and I was just constantly in that world that, you know, you see the parallels that are there, but you do. I mean, with Edward I, it was kind of this really nationalistic time period where there was a lot of like xenophobia and persecution of people, and a huge class divide. Obviously, there was peasantry and a completely different kind of economic system, really. But at the same time, these people are existing in this this environment, so they're dealing with kind of the same emotions that I think we would in this time period. And yeah, and then also I think a lot of our preconceived notions about the Dark Ages is we are always thinking, oh, these people are much more ignorant. It's much more an oppressive time period socially. It's much more conservative. But I always had the hunch that that wasn't quite the case, that while they did have, it was monarchy and this kind of feudal society, which was its own form of oppression. I think the actual real life of these people, the actual personal lives of these people, was probably much more freer emotionally and socially. And so I wanted to kind of not prove that, I guess, but kind of explore that with writing the book. A lot of the research I did kind of affirmed that kind of hunch that I had, that yeah, there are a lot of parallels to the difficulties that we have today, but there are also a lot of almost answers, I guess, to the problems that we have today, if that makes sense.
I do want to unpack that a little further. What you found out about queer life in that time period. I've got a minute left, so I'm not going to ask a huge question like that and then be like, answer that in 20 seconds. But we're going to take a break. We're going to have Ryan Collette will continue with us after this break. Before we go, check out our GLAAD Media Award nominated podcast, This Queer Book Saved My Life. I interview LGBTQ guests from across the rainbow about the queer books that had a life-saving impact for them. Plus, we bring in the authors to join the conversation to talk about what it took to write and get that book out into the world. You can go to thisqueerbook.com to stream all of our episodes, or you can find it everywhere you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. Also, you can keep the conversation going on Blue Sky with us here at The Gaily Show. We are at thegaileyshow.org on Blue Sky. We include a whole bunch of other articles that we just can't get to on the show there, and you can DM me all of the rants that you have, which folks make really good use of my DMs, but they're always open for you. So we're going to take a quick break. More on the flip side with Ryan Collette. You're listening to The Gaily Show on AM 950 Radio and WCPT 820. back to the Gailey Show. We are coming up on the top of the hour. I am John Parker. He's the host of the popular RJ Knits YouTube channel and has a new novel, George Falls Through Time, comes out in January. You can pre-order your copies now. Ryan, we were talking about before the break, queer life in the 1300s. Can we pick it up there? What did you find out about that? What was that like?
Yeah, there's a lot there for sure. So I always had,
Okay.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of artistic liberty that is taken with that, but there is plenty of history as well. So the main thing, I mean, I always had the hunch that the Dark Ages were not really that dark, and even though the people were not that literate, I do think they had just as rich of lives as we would now. So George in this book is constantly kind of learning that the hard way. He's assuming that the people are dumber than they are, and he actually ends up being kind of the dumb one that's unable to figure out what's going on. So the kind of the queer life that I researched, the best historians in any sort of book that they write, they're always going to be very humble and admit that we don't know anything. I mean, even 100 years ago, we don't know exactly what was going on. We forget, we don't keep records. And the records that are kept by the winners and the people who are having the resources to even keep records in the first place. So in medieval times, that means a lot of church records, which back then were more almost just a form of administration of counting the people that are living in the parish. And there was there was gay life. I mean, a really great book that I read was by John Boswell. He was a researcher, historian in the 80s. Oh, he was amazing. He's got this incredible book that is about the history of homosexuality and Christianity and kind of the rise of how it went from the beginning of time till now, and sort of almost about the rise of homophobia too. And what he kind of argues is that homophobia is more of a modern construct, even in these time periods that were quite oppressive, like the Dark Ages, medieval England. There was a kind of a gay life that people were living, and there was not. I mean, I don't think it was maybe quite as advertised, but nothing else was advertised either. Like people had other concerns that they were living through with like basic survival things. So that's what I really wanted to explore with the book. George gets a boyfriend pretty easily in the book, and he's constantly kind of shocked that it's not this persecuted thing that he runs into. There is homophobia because homophobia, but it takes a different form. The homophobia that's in the book is more directed at Edward II, who is a gay king, kind of a famously, explicitly gay king with multiple lovers. And the homophobia is almost directed at him as this person of power and this oppressor. So it's an interesting, there is homophobia in the book, but there's a strange twist on it. It's not quite like the kind of puritanical walls that we'll run up against in modern times. So arguably it was almost a less conservative, a less socially conservative time, despite the clear kind of structural oppression that was happening elsewhere in the world.
I think it's hard to look at the royals as anything because they lived sort of in their own little world of rules that they had to live by. I mean, there's the King James Bible, but that guy was a raging homo. I mean, so to put it delicately, but the King Edward II and the Piers Gaveston, if I'm saying that correctly, that was an infamous relationship there, which, there were battles fought over that one, and French kings getting involved, and a French wife, and I mean, it was just like, and everyone ended up dead.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. I love, and honestly, I was just really lucky to stumble on this being the time period that I wanted George to fall into in the middle of that. I mean, he does meet Pierce Gaveston. He does meet Edward II. I promise it is not like a Carmen Sandiego Magic School Bus kind of thing. I do indulge myself in kind of the living history and seeing these characters throughout history, but I do keep it kind of grounded in reality. And I think that's part of what I'm trying to do with the book too, though, is really grounded. Like, yes, Edward II is this kind of larger than life character we know from history, but at the time he's just kind of a teenager in love with this boyfriend, and you can just imagine a snotty 17-year-old prince with a boyfriend who is also just kind of working for him, and so you can imagine the type of character that is. It's not this cartoonish character, but it is a gay teenager who has his own hang-ups and expectations that he has to meet too. So George has some entertaining run-ins with these people and learns they're kind of just like him, in all the bad ways and all the good ways. In
under 30 seconds, what can we say about the dragon?
The dragon is great. It's he's a sassy, all-knowing, wish-granting, several hundred-year-old dragon, and he throws everybody for a loop.
Well, the book is George Falls Through Time. We have links in our show notes and on our websites for you to pre-order your copy. You can head to am950radio.com, heartlandsignal.com. If you're on YouTube, you can just look at the show description here. You can connect with Ryan at ryancollett.com. That's 2 T's, COLLETT.com. On socials, he is RJ Collett. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me on The Gaily Show.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone for listening and or watching today. Remember to subscribe and click like on YouTube. You can also keep the gay going all weekend long. So tomorrow afternoon on AM 950 Radio, we've got Twin Cities Pride Amplified at 3 p.m., The Illegal Trans Woman at 4 p.m., and the Downright Upright Show at 5 p.m. On Sunday on WCPT, it is Out Chicago with your gay best friends, Ellen Miller and Scott Duff. And until this time, Monday, keep it queer, America.